quite some few things that might inspire all of us. So that is why today's topic, it's about the relics of the past. The relics of the past. The pains of the future, of the present. The invasion of 1897. The relics of the past, the invasion of 1897. And the pains and the problems, the difficulties of the present, of the future. As an ethnic group, we are one of the most victimized people in the entire world. What happened during the British invasion in 1897? What happened during the British invasion 1897 was not, if it had happened to other ethnic nationalities, if it had happened to every other ethnic nationalities, they would have been lost in history. But we are still here, trying to find our feet, trying to put things right as best as a people, trying to get a better future for our generations yet unborn. It is important that we must get a lot of these things correctly, so as to chart a more purposeful future. I know a whole lot of you ask, why have I allowed Monkey Face to be here in this program? I allowed him because I'm convinced strongly that through my program he will get the salvation. Through my program he will get to know the truth, that whatever fight he think he's fighting is self-centered, selfish, and is going to drown him. So, but I've always realized that there shouldn't be discrimination between ourselves, even when some have a variant opinion. During the British invasion in 1897, the Ezomo of that era said, "Okona makame, a Benin man who abandoned his people." Don't forget. Ezomo supposed to be is the second in command in our war generalissimo after the Iyase. Ezomo is the next in command. He was supposed to be the chief protector of our history. But instead, he said he had no crime against the British, and as such, these are some of the stories that have not been told. The Ezomo of the British invasion 1897 deliberately abandoned his king to his fate. He had a lackadaisical attitude towards his people. Eventually, the Benins lost that war. What became him? He regretted that because some of the houses that were eventually burnt down was Ezomo's house. So in times of war, there are no neutrality. It's either you are in or you are out. It's either you are there or you are not there. It's either you are for or you are against. Shocking. The Iyase of that era also, I can remember that one's name. His name was Okina. Also rebelled against the Benin people. The rebel, why I said you people shouldn't insult him. There's a level that you attain in understanding Benin history. There's a level that the ancestors of this land, of Edo land, might have taken you deep into the miseries of the land. You will not be moved by recalcitrant Edo people, because the fire that the light will eventually burn them. This story is almost the same story of this monkey face, but in this case his name was Iyase Okina, who rebelled against Benin Kingdom in the year 1899. His whole idea was that there was no need to be a king in Benin Kingdom. And Iyase, who was supposed to know better, his name is Iyase Okina. He protested against the coming back of the Benin monarch. He protested against it fervently in 1899. But a year later, in 1900, he died. 14 years later, the Benin monarch was restored. Why am I sharing this story? Why am I sharing this story with all of you? I'm sharing this story with all of you is that every man or woman that has stood against the Edo people, the monarch and the monarchy, the king and the people, they have all died. The people is still living, still exists, and the king still exists. So at every generation, they are bound to be rebel. They are bound, and that is why I don't feel what he is doing. There must be a rebel. There is no doubt about it. You understand? They will all die, but the monarch will subsist. That's the beauty. They are bound to be rebels to the throne. They have always been rebels to every thrones of the world. They will all die. The history will remember them, just like the history is remembering Iyase Okina. We are discussing about him, how he rebelled about there should not be any need for the Benin throne to return. He died a year after, and 14 years later, the throne returned. The history no longer remembers Iyase Okina. Iyase Okina is being remembered as a traitor to his people and to the throne. So, how we play our parts, it's how history will remember the part and the roles that we have played. I choose to be in the right side of history. I choose to be an Edo man who stands for his people selflessly. I choose to be an Edo man who will put his life on the track for his people selflessly. How we are remembered by history is based on what side of history we were during our era of lives. So count him as that person who chose the wrong side of history at the time of his life. And history will remember him as that which stood against his people at the time where unity was needed. All right. So, having said that, the British invasion of 1897 was meant to crush us. The essence of the British was not only interested in defeating the Edo people. They had no interest. That was not what they were interested only. They were interested in exterminating us from the very surface of the earth. From the very surface of the earth. They saw a very unique race, the most unique of all the races they have met in the African continent. They had one mandate: exterminate them from the surface of the earth. Everything that has to do as regards a Benin man, every single territories that we had was taken away from us and given to our neighbors. And those who dissected our land were not allowed to return back for close to 50 years until they became almost forcefully acculturated to our neighbors. The British plan was to completely destroy us. The British plan is to still destroy us. But we're still here. However, what they did has a devastating capacity on our people. Amaikwe de diao nagamie nari on ivie do yeragbon. Ana hulivie do ni bun yo tedore. The ones around to the present day southwest were never allowed. In short, there was a protest between 1905 to 1907 of the Edo indigenes around to the Yoruba, present day Yoruba land, that they wanted to return home. But the British said, on no account should anybody who has left the city, Benin City, to return back. So they were serious in ensuring that an ethnic group, a race called the Edo race, a kingdom or an empire called the Benin, should never be seen. But shockingly, our ancestors prevailed. We are still here. But we need to get it right. We need to get it right. Otherwise, we are no longer, our destiny no longer lies in the hands of the British. Our destiny solely lies on our hands. And how we go about it will determine the future that we might create for our generations unborn. The relics of the past has really affected us in all ways, psychologically, emotionally, in all ways that you can think of. In all ways that you can think of. But what can we do to salvage the situations? That is what is most important. That is what is most important. I'd like to talk about the failure of our elites. I'd like to talk about it briefly. And I'd like, by the power of God and our ancestors willing, I'd like to make it a topic on how shameful our so-called elites are. The times of kings are not gone. That's what you don't understand. Osakwe. When God created us, He created us with a structured leadership. The leadership of the kings. By nature, we are Republican people. Have you seen when Benin people conspire against the king? Have you seen? Have you read some of these conspiracies against the king? Any conspiracy against the king in the history of Benin, when the Umanag Banedo ya conspire against the Oba, they all succeeded. Now, the only one they did not succeed was Obaesige. The reason they did not succeed was not the Edo people that fought the king. It was a section of the Edo people, Abihaim, that fought the king. That's why they did not succeed. If it was the entire Edo people, they would certainly have succeeded. But the consequences of some of these actions took us hundreds of years back, because in all of this conspiracy against the monarch, we will eventually later realize the essence of the bond between the people and the king. And I haven't enough times I've stressed this bond. This bond has to be balance. It has to be a scale of 50-50. Oba or Edo, Edo or Oba. It's a scale of 50-50. Alright? If the people overshadows the Oba, they are bound to be anarchy. If the Oba overshadows the people, they are bound to be anarchy. The traditional institution of the Edo people must understand that it's a balance. You give to the people give to you. The power that the monarch possesses is drawn from his people. The relevance of the kingship is from the people. Amiedune akemioba Oba uswemani no sa di no tedo yanyo se. We must understand this balance. In one of our topic, I'm going to speak on this balance. Alright, but let me not deviate. My grief today is against our elites, or our so-called elites. We have had series of struggles. We have had the Benin just struggle. In recent times, the struggle that I am aware of, the Benin just struggle at Gelegele environs. We had the Benin Shekiri struggle at Ologbo, and even in recent times, the kingship of the Olu of Warri. I'm yet to see any of the elites. When I mean elites, I'm talking about the Enigis. I'm talking about the Ohens. I'm talking about the Okaigilis. I'm talking about the Okaivos. Those that are traditionally empowered to be a servant to the Edo people. What roles have they played in recent times to assist the Edo nationality to fight for the survivor of the Edo people? The old Benin society was built on a foundation of selflessness. Emi no kind do or kind ye do. Ekinana yoya no ye do ne ogi kan egbedo. Adesuwa was a daughter of Ezomo, and she was murdered by the Obuluku king. Edona ve ari ovi Edo zese awano. Gaya tam Obuluku king. Oswima ogbe. And a war was declared upon. I can give you examples of killing a Benin person, how it has led to Benin waging war against ethnic groups or neighboring towns who killed one of them. The strength of unity. Akugbewaro. There was selflessness. There were people who were selfless to the very cause of Benin land. Extremely selfless. But today, what do we have? Bunch of useless, stupid, ragged, self-centered leaders. I see them a lot and I feel so ashamed of their ignorance, of their dishonesty, their stupidity, even as elders, who in times of turbulence and troubles, they were supposed to be the bastion, some we need to lean on. But you see those guys? They are fucking self-centered. Outside the Benin traditional, outside the Benin monarch, I don't think we have any other leadership. Is there any Edo man that you think every Edo man must run to outside the Oba of Benin? At all. Because they are all bloody self-centered, egocentrical bunch of they can only be interested if we are mere way. It's not very difficult for you to see a Benin man who does not have interest, if whose interest is not protected, will be able to put it every single thing out to fight for the nationality of his people. It's very difficult, and that's why we are not great anymore. I tell people that when Benin start getting some of the essentialities of the old society right, when they start getting it right, that's the only way that a lot of these little things, no wima or the baby ade, until we start to critically look inward to examine the problems of ourselves as a people, we're going to be, see, after the British did all they had to do, I don't know how they did it. Suddenly we became people who no longer recognizes themselves anymore. They no longer recognizes the sacrifices of the old, how the ancestors of the old built civilizations that was incomparable. And I give hundreds of reasons. I tell them that the difference between the Benins of old and the Benins of present is miles apart. They are not the same in all categories. They are not the same. Edo, Nede, Vedo, Vedenena. They are not the same. They are miles apart. They are hundreds, millions of miles apart. Millions of miles apart. We no longer have morals, and morals is almost zero. Again, there. Me if do equine we are radio bokan or we born on marwe. You know, they had pride. The pride that they had was not the useless pride that we now have. A pride of that's a useless pride now. But knowing fully well that the old Benin society was built on hard work and excellence. I've talked about I've talked about this in several occasions, that hard work, evario bow. See, we try to hide. We tried to hide under the guise of religion. It is not religion. I don't see our problem is beyond religion. Don't forget, during the times of Obaisigi, there was religion, but the Benins had a unity of purpose. They were not divided. That is why I tell people, that is why a lot of people have mistook what I stand for their own modernity of current trends. I will not discriminate against an Edo man because he's a Christian, because there were Christians in Benin somewhat 500 years ago, but the leadership was able to harness them to have a unity of purpose. The Benin society is so old that we can have all set of religion in Benin Kingdom and still will be able to strive, because to us it was nationality first, before even when we were practicing our core tradition of the old. There were different schools of tradition. There were people who were Olokun servers. There were people who practiced the divinity of Osagbaye. They were Iha practitioners. These are different schools of divinity, but there were no clashes. Or Segenaya Fiyagi Fiya, or Segenaya Bobolokun Agi Bobolokun. These are different schools of religiosity or different schools of tradition that beckons basically on different ideas. The worshipping of Olokun, the worshipping of Osagbaye,